So you married your brother to commit immigration fraud, took money from your boyfriend through your campaign called 9/11. Some people did something. And you think you get to lecture me about American values? What happened next wasn't just a debate. It wasn't even a destruction. It was a public autopsy of a political career that should never have existed in the first place. Ilhan Omar walked into that Fox News town hall in Minneapolis, her own district, her own backyard, thinking she was protected, thinking her identity would shield her from scrutiny, thinking Trump wouldn't dare bring up the evidence that had been accumulating for years like snow before an avalanche. She thought wrong. By the time 75 minutes had passed, even her own supporters were walking out. The squad was frantically deleting tweets. Democratic leadership was already drafting statements to distance themselves. And the woman who'd wrapped herself in progressive rhetoric while committing federal crimes was finally, definitively, completely exposed. If you've been waiting years to see Ilhan Omar answer for what she's done to America, this is your moment. Drop a flag emoji in the comments if you're ready to watch justice served with a side of brutal honesty, because what Donald Trump did that night will be studied in political science classes as how to destroy someone using only facts. The Fox News special town hall had been billed as confronting the squad, but everyone knew it was really about one person. Bret Baier stood on the stage at the Minneapolis Convention Center, looking every bit the serious journalist trying to maintain control of what promised to be a chaotic evening. The audience of 300 was split, 60-40. Republicans and independents on the right side, progressives and Omar's supporters on the left. But sitting in the very front row, separate from both groups, were 12 people wearing photographs pinned to their chests. Photographs of people who would never attend another town hall, people who died on September 11, 2001. The 9/11 families had come to Minneapolis. Trump entered first, doing his signature double point at the crowd. The right side erupted. He wore a navy suit, red tie and an American flag pin gleaming under the studio lights. He settled into his chair with the casual confidence of a man who'd done this 1,000 times and won 909 of them. Then came Omar. She wore a burgundy hijab with a black blazer, projecting the image of the serious congresswoman ready for serious debate. Her supporters cheered. Someone shouted, "We love you, Ilhan!" She smiled that camera-ready smile and took her seat. Bret Baier cleared his throat. Welcome to the Fox News Special Town Hall. Tonight, we'll address critical issues facing our nation with President Trump and Representative Ilhan Omar. Let's begin with our first audience question. Bret, can I say something first? Trump leaned forward. Baier sighed quietly. Of course, Mr. President. I just want to thank Fox for putting this together, and I want to thank Ilhan for being here. I know Minneapolis is your home, your district, your people, so this takes courage. Coming here to face me, to answer questions, to defend your record. I respect that. I genuinely respect that. He paused, and the smile that spread across his face was the smile of a predator who'd just spotted wounded prey. Because by the end of tonight, everyone in this room, everyone watching at home, is going to know exactly who you are and what you've done. And you won't be able to hide behind Islamophobia or racism or any of the other shields you use. Just facts, just evidence, just the truth. So, thank you for being here. This is going to be very educational for everyone. Bret Baier looked like a man who already regretted every decision that led him to this moment. He had no idea it was about to get so much worse. The first question came from a middle-aged Somali-American man in the audience. Representative Omar, you've spoken about your refugee journey and how America gave you opportunity. But there are allegations about your immigration story that trouble many in our community. Can you address them? Omar straightened in her chair, clearly prepared. Thank you for that question. Look, I've been very transparent about my story. I came here as a refugee. I worked hard. I became a citizen. And I'm living the American dream. These conspiracy theories about my family are nothing but Islamophobic smears designed to— Oh, here we go, Trump interrupted, but he was smiling. Not even 5 minutes, and we're already at Islamophobia. That might be a record. The audience laughed. Omar's face flushed. Let me ask you something, Ilhan. Can I call you Ilhan? I'm going to call you Ilhan. Trump pulled a folder from under his chair. If these are just conspiracy theories, why won't you take a DNA test? That's an invasion of privacy. It's a cheek swab. It takes 5 minutes. Trump was enjoying this. You know how you end conspiracy theories? Evidence, proof, DNA that shows Ahmed Elmi isn't your brother. Done. Over. I'll personally apologize on national television. He paused. But you won't do it. Why? Omar didn't answer. I'll tell you why, Trump said, opening his folder. Because it's not a conspiracy theory. It's the truth, and I can prove it. The audience went quiet. Trump walked to the big screen where an image appeared. A document with British government seals. This is Ahmed Noor Saeed Elmi's school record from England. See this line here? He pointed. Father's name, Noor Saeed Elmi, born in Somalia, fled during the Civil War. He pulled out another document. The image changed. And this is your refugee application from 1995. Father's name right here, Noor Saeed Elmi, from Somalia, fled during the Civil War. Trump turned to the audience. Now, I'm not a genius. I didn't go to Harvard or Yale, but I know this much. When two people have the same father from the same country fleeing the same war at the same time, they're family. Brothers and sisters. It's basic biology. A woman in Omar's section shouted, "That's not proof!" You're right, Trump agreed. Same father's name could be a coincidence. Unusual coincidence, but possible. So, let's look at more evidence. A marriage certificate appeared on screen. August 2009, you marry Ahmed Elmi. Trump walked closer to Omar's chair. Now, this is where it gets interesting because at this time you're in what you call a cultural marriage with Ahmed Hirsi. You've been with him since 2002. You have 2 children with him. He looked at the audience. So, you're culturally married to one guy with kids, and you legally marry another guy. That's complicated, but hey, modern relationships, right? Who am I to judge? Some nervous laughter. Except, here's the thing. Lease agreements appeared on screen. From 2009 to 2011, all 3 of you, Elmi, and Hirsi, are living at the same address. Same apartment in Columbia Heights. 1 apartment, 3 people. He turned to Omar. That's not complicated, that's weird. Unless, Trump let it hang there. Unless Elmi isn't really your husband. Unless he's your brother and you're committing immigration fraud to get him U.S. citizenship. The audience erupted, shouts from both sides. Brett tried to restore order. Trump pulled up another image. Here's my favorite piece of evidence. This is from Elmi's Instagram. He deleted it, but the internet is forever. It's a photo of your daughter. And in the caption, he calls her his niece. He looked directly at Omar. Why would your husband call your daughter his niece? Can you explain that? Omar's voice was shaking now. This has all been investigated and debunked. Has it? Trump pulled out another document. Because I have here an internal memo from U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services from 2016. It says there were red flags raised about your marriage, that investigators recommended looking into potential marriage fraud, but it was blocked. Politically blocked because you were running for office and Democrats didn't want the bad publicity. He waved the paper. This isn't debunked. This is covered up. There's a difference. Trump walked back to center stage. You know what the craziest part is? You came here as a refugee. America took you in when you had nothing. We gave you safety. We gave you shelter. We gave you opportunity. His voice got quieter, more serious. And what did you do? You turned around and committed fraud. You abused the very immigration system that saved your life to get your brother a citizenship he didn't earn. He looked at the Somali-American man who'd asked the question. This is why people are angry. Not because of where she's from, not because of her religion, but because she's proof that the system can be abused. She's proof that we need stronger verification. She's living evidence of why border security matters. Trump turned back to Omar. You want to call this Islamophobia? Fine. But Islam doesn't teach people to commit fraud. Muslims are honest, hardworking people. You're the one disrespecting Islam by using it as a shield for criminal behavior. Several Muslim Americans in the audience nodded. One woman removed her "I stand with Ilhan" button. And here's the thing that really kills me, Trump continued. After we educate you for free, by the way, American taxpayers paid for your school, after we make you successful, after we elect you to Congress, you call us systemically racist. He shook his head. The country that saved you, educated you, gave you everything is racist. The audacity, the ingratitude. He sat back down. But that's just the immigration fraud. Wait till you hear what she said about 9/11, because that's when you'll really understand who she is. He looked directly at the camera. Share this if you think immigrants who commit fraud should be deported even if they're members of Congress. Brett Baier tried to move forward. Let's turn to national security and foreign policy. Actually, Brett, before we do that, Trump stood up. I want to introduce some very special guests who are here tonight. The camera panned to the front row. The 12 people with photographs pinned to their chests, faces of the missing, faces of the dead. These are 9/11 families, Trump said quietly. They traveled here to Minneapolis because they wanted to hear Ilhan Omar explain something she said that hurt them very, very deeply. Omar's face went pale. She knew what was coming. Should we play the clip? Trump asked. Mr. President, I'm not sure, Brett started. Play it. The screen filled with footage from March 2019. Omar at a CARE fundraiser speaking passionately. Her voice filled the room. CARE was founded after 9/11 because they recognized that some people did something and that all of us were starting to lose access to our civil liberties. Trump paused the video. The silence in the room was crushing. Some people did something, Trump repeated softly. That's how she described September 11th, 2001. The worst terrorist attack in American history. The murder of 2,957 innocent Americans. Some people did something, like it was a fender bender, like someone spilled coffee, like it was too minor to even name properly. A man in the front row stood up, his voice breaking. My wife died in Tower 2. She was 29 years old. We'd been married 6 months. Her name was Sarah Mitchell. She wasn't something, she was everything. Trump gestured for him to continue. She called me from the 103rd floor. She said she loved me. She said she was scared. Then the line went dead. His voice cracked. That's not something done by some people. That's murder. That's terrorism. Say their names. Say what they did. An elderly woman stood next, barely holding herself together. My son was a firefighter. Michael Patterson. He ran into those buildings when everyone else ran out. He saved 12 people before Tower 1 collapsed on him. She looked directly at Omar. You will say his name. Not some people, not something. Michael Patterson. Say it. Omar stammered, I didn't mean to minimize. But you did, Trump cut in. You did minimize it, and it wasn't a one-time mistake. It's a pattern. He pulled up more evidence. 2013, on a Somali language forum, you wrote, and I'm reading your words here, Americans overreact to 9/11. More people die from medical errors every year. They use the attack as an excuse for imperialism. Gasps rippled through the audience. You said Americans overreact to 9/11. Now tell that to the families in this room. Tell them they overreacted when they lost their husbands, their wives, their children. He pulled up another document. But wait, it gets worse. Private messages to a progressive activist group leaked in 2000. You wrote, the American obsession with 9/11 is useful politically. When they question us, invoke Islamophobia and post-9/11 discrimination. Make them feel guilty for their reaction to the attack. Trump read it again, slower. Make them feel guilty for their reaction to the attack. Not guilty for discriminating against Muslims, guilty for reacting to 3,000 Americans being murdered. He walked toward the front row. You saw 9/11 as a political opportunity, a weapon to use against grieving families, a way to manipulate people's grief into silence. A third family member stood, a younger man. I was 7 years old when my father died. I grew up without him because some people did something. No, Islamic terrorists committed mass murder on American soil. Say the words. Say what they did. Trump turned to Omar. Can you say it right now in front of these families? Say, Islamic terrorists committed mass murder on September 11, 2001. They were evil. The victims were innocent. I grieve for them without reservation. 5 sentences. No buts, no context about American foreign policy. Just 5 sentences of basic human decency. Can you do it? Omar opened her mouth. The attacks were terrible. But we also have to acknowledge that American foreign policy, she can't do it. Trump turned to the audience. Even now, even with these families watching, she cannot condemn terrorism without adding, but America deserved it. He pulled out one more document. The FBI did a security clearance review on you in 2019. Want to know what they found? This is from their internal memo. Subject shows troubling sympathy for anti-American narratives and inability to condemn terrorism without equivocation. Recommend denial of high-level security clearance. The FBI said you can't be trusted with America's secrets because you can't condemn terrorism clearly. But Democratic leadership overruled them. Politics over security. He walked to the front row, standing among the families. And you call it something done by some people. Like their grief doesn't matter, like American lives don't matter. Trump turned to face Omar directly. You know what the difference is between you and me? When I say something offensive, I own it. I don't hide. You said these things. You minimized 9/11. And when you got caught, you called everyone who questioned you Islamophobic. He gestured to the families. Are they Islamophobic? They're heartbroken. They're angry. Trump pulled out one final document. Want to know who agrees with me? Your own Imam, Imam Abdusalam Adam, from the Islamic Center of Minneapolis. He released a statement about you. He read, I have counseled Representative Omar repeatedly about her rhetoric regarding 9/11 and terrorism. These actions shame our community. She does not represent Islam. Trump folded the paper. Your own spiritual leader says you bring shame to Muslims. Not me, not Republicans, your own imam. He walked back to his chair. Because real Muslim Americans love this country. They know you can be Muslim and American. They're not contradictory. But you can't do it. You can't love America because you fundamentally don't believe in American values. 3 of the 9/11 family members stood and walked out weeping. Within minutes, #say their names was trending worldwide. Trump looked at the camera. This woman hates America. And wait till you see who's been funding her campaign. The terrorist connections will blow your mind. Brett Baer, visibly shaken, tried to redirect. Let's discuss Middle East policy. Oh, we'll discuss it, Trump interrupted. But first, let's talk about why she really hates Israel and who's paying her to hate Israel. Omar sat up straighter. I don't hate Israel. I criticize their government's policies toward Palestinians, using every anti-Semitic trope from the last 2,000 years, Trump finished. Let's look at your greatest hits. He pulled up a tweet on the big screen. It's all about the Benjamin's baby. Benjamins, Trump said. Money. You're saying Jews use money to buy politicians. That's not policy criticism, Ilhan. That's an anti-Semitic trope used to justify pogroms for 2,000 years. Another tweet appeared, marked as deleted. AIPAC owns Congress. Owns, like their property, like Jews own our government. He pulled up another. Israel hypnotizes the world. Hypnotizes, puppet masters, secret control. These are literal Nazi propaganda talking points. The idea that Jews manipulate the world. A Jewish woman in the audience stood up. My grandparents survived the Holocaust. They heard these same words in Germany before their families were murdered. Trump nodded. Exactly. This isn't political disagreement. This is ancient hatred with a progressive filter. He pulled up audio on his phone. A leaked recording from a private fundraiser. Omar's voice filled the room. The Jewish members of Congress can't be trusted on Middle East policy. They have divided loyalties. They put Israel first, America second. Trump stopped the recording. Dual loyalty. The accusation used against Jews in Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union. You can't be trusted. You're loyal to your tribe, not your nation. An older man with a kippah stood up. I'm a Democrat my whole life, and I'm asking you to stop, please. These words, they lead to violence. Here's what I don't get, Trump continued. You tweet that Israel and America commit human rights abuses just like Hamas and the Taliban. You equate democracies with terrorist organizations. He brought up the tweet. Israel has courts, elections, rights for women and gay people. Hamas throws gay people off buildings. But to you, they're the same. Why? Because they both oppose radical Islam. And to you, anyone who opposes radical Islam is evil. He pulled up financial records. Now, let's talk about who's paying you. KER, the Council on American Islamic Relations. You've headlined their fundraisers. Federal prosecutors proved KER was founded by people with Hamas connections. You raise money for them, over $800,000, and they donate to your campaigns. Qatar Foundation board members donated $89,000 to you. Qatar hosts Hamas leadership. You take money from terrorism supporters and then accuse Jews of buying influence. The hypocrisy is breathtaking. He pulled out a letter. This is a statement signed by every Jewish Democrat in Congress. We have tried for years to educate Representative Omar. She apologizes publicly and doubles down privately. This isn't ignorance, it's hatred. We call for her removal from the Foreign Affairs Committee. Trump walked toward Omar. You know what the most dangerous thing about anti-Semitism is? It starts with words. Jews control the money. Jews have dual loyalty. Jews hypnotize the world. His voice hardened. And then, once those ideas take root, bad things happen. 6 million people were murdered because of these ideas. And you're spreading them on Twitter like they're just hot takes. Trump turned to the audience. If a white Republican congressman tweeted that black people were naturally violent, they'd be expelled immediately. But she tweets anti-Semitic tropes over and over, and she's still on the Foreign Affairs Committee. With boundary, because she checks the right identity boxes. Omar tried to speak. I criticize the Israeli government. No, Trump said flatly. You use ancient tropes. You take money from terrorism supporters. That's not criticism. That's bigotry. And the only reason you get away with it is because Democrats are too afraid to call it what it is. Several people in the Democratic section removed their Omar buttons. The shift was palpable. Think that's bad? Trump looked at the camera. Wait till you see what she did with campaign money. Her boyfriend got very rich off donations from people who trusted her. Trump didn't wait for Bayer. Let's talk about Tim Minette. Most people date normally. When Ilhan Omar dates someone, she pays them $3.8 million in campaign money. He let that number hang. $3.8 million. Trump pulled up a photo of Minette. Tim Minette, marketing consultant. No major clients before Omar, no track record. But he's very good at one thing, dating his boss. The audience laughed. Trump brought up a timeline. 2018. Omar's campaign starts paying Minette's company, E Street Group. First payment? $23,000. By the end of 2018, $230,000. More financial records appeared. 2019. The payments increased to $350,000. Trump pulled up divorce papers. April 2019, Beth Minette files for divorce. He read from her sworn deposition. My husband told me he was in love with Ilhan Omar. When I asked how he could afford to leave me, he said, Don't worry. Ilhan's campaign is paying for everything. The audience gasped. Trump continued. He told her their relationship became physical during campaign trips. Trips billed to her donors as political travel. Romantic dinners in California, hotel suites in New York, all paid for by people who thought they were funding a movement. They were funding an affair. After they married in March 2020, did the payments stop? No. 2021, $1.3 million down to 2022, $900,000. Total, $3.8 million. That's enough to send 40 kids to college. Instead, it went to her boyfriend's firm. For what? Generic social media posts any consultant could do for $50,000 a year. But Tim Minette is worth $3.8 million because he's sleeping with his client. Trump pulled out printed emails from donors. Sarah K. from Minneapolis. I'm a single mother. That $500 meant something to me, and you spent it on your boyfriend. James R. from Brooklyn. I wanted to support a woman of color. Instead, I funded your affair. This is fraud. You laundered it through his company, Trump said. The Minnesota Campaign Finance Board already found you guilty of violations. You had to pay back money used for personal travel and tax preparation. Tax preparation to fix the fraudulent returns from when you were married to your brother. You used donor money to cover up previous fraud. Fraud layered on fraud. Omar tried to respond. Those were minor clerical errors. $3.8 million isn't clerical, Trump shot back. You ran as a progressive fighting corruption, and the whole time you were running your own corruption scheme. You know what would happen to me if I paid my wife's company $3.8 million in campaign funds? I'd be in prison. Immediately. But she's still in Congress because identity politics matters more than corruption. Ilhan, a simple question. What services did Tim Minette provide for $4 million? What value did donors receive? Omar stammered, but couldn't provide specifics. Trump smiled. That's what I thought. You got nothing. Just theft disguised as consulting fees. After being systematically dismantled, Omar finally played her last card. This entire evening, she said, her voice shaking, has been nothing but Islamophobic attacks and sexist targeting. There it is, Trump clapped. I was wondering how long it would take. The audience erupted. Trump stood up. Ladies and gentlemen, what you just witnessed is the identity shield. Watch how it works. I present evidence of immigration fraud, Islamophobic. I show her minimizing 9/11, racist. I prove campaign finance corruption, sexist. Everything becomes about her identity. Nothing becomes about her actions. It's brilliant. Evil, but brilliant. Trump pulled up a montage of Omar's past responses to criticism. Every single clip showed her calling the questioner a bigot. See the pattern? She doesn't defend her actions. She attacks her critics. She makes you the villain for noticing her crimes. She doesn't say why Ahmed Elmi isn't her brother. She says you're racist for asking. It's a deflection that has worked for years because Democrats are terrified of being called racist. Trump pulled up images of Muslim Americans, Somali leaders, and women who'd criticized Omar. Are they all bigots? Are they Islamophobic against themselves? Of course not. The problem isn't them. It's you. You're not defending yourself because the fraud is clear and the corruption is documented. His voice rose. Being Muslim doesn't give you permission to commit fraud. Being black doesn't give you permission to spread anti-Semitism. Being a woman doesn't give you permission to steal from donors. The audience erupted in applause. The relief in the room was palpable. Your identity doesn't shield you from accountability. You're a U.S. Congresswoman subject to the same laws as everyone else. I'm not afraid of your labels. The truth is, you're a criminal who happens to be Muslim, not a victim. Trump stood in the center of the stage. America gave you everything. You came here as a refugee, 12 years old, fleeing a war-torn country. You had nothing. And America opened its arms. We gave you safety, shelter, food, and a future. We educated you for free. We made you a citizen. And then, the amazing part, we elected you to Congress. That's proof that America works. He paused. And how did you repay us? A timeline appeared on screen. 1995. America accepts you as a refugee. You commit immigration fraud. 1997 to 2000. America educates you. You claim America is systemically racist. 2001. 9/11 attack. You minimize it as some people did something. 2018. Americans elect you to Congress. You start stealing campaign funds through your boyfriend. Every step of the way, you spit in our face. You said on video, I probably love America less than anyone in Congress. Then why are you here? Why did you stay? I'll tell you why. Because you hate us, but you love our money. You love the $174,000 salary and the attention. You're not a victim of America. You're a parasite feeding on America while killing the host. Trump shook his head. At every turn, you could have chosen gratitude over grievance, honesty over fraud. And you chose wrong every single time. He pulled out leaked strategy emails from progressive groups. You're not a leader, you're a tool. A useful idiot for people who want to destroy the Democratic Party, and for foreign adversaries who want America divided. Russian bots amplify your messages. Iranian media celebrates when you equate America with terrorists. You're useful to our enemies." He sat down, his voice dropping. "America is special. Is it perfect? No, but there's a reason refugees flee to our shores. You are living proof that America works, that we're not the evil empire you claim we are. Because if we were, you'd still be in a refugee camp. Instead, you're in Congress, living in luxury. And yet, you tell us we're evil. You're not a victim. You're a traitor." The word hung in the air. A traitor, because you have systematically worked against American interests while living off our generosity. That's textbook betrayal. He stood among the 9/11 families again. "Final challenge, Ilhan. Right now, say 8 sentences. I love America. I'm grateful to America. America saved my life. I was wrong to minimize 9/11. I was wrong to spread anti-Semitism. I was wrong to commit fraud. I condemn terrorism without reservation. I'm sorry." "Can you say them?" Omar started to speak. The attacks were terrible, but we also need to understand the context of colonialism." "She can't do it," Trump said. "Even now, she cannot say she loves America without a but." He addressed the crowd. "You elected her. Do you still want her? She has made your city synonymous with corruption and anti-American hatred." Several Omar supporters stood up and walked out. Trump's voice was quiet, but fierce. "America gave you everything, Ilhan Omar, and you gave us nothing but contempt, fraud, and hatred in return. You don't deserve to be in Congress. Honestly, you don't deserve to be an American citizen." Trump gathered his papers. "I'm done. There's nothing she can say that will fix what everyone just learned." The silence was absolute. Omar sat frozen, her career smoldering in ruins. Trump looked at the camera. America deserves better. The town hall ended at 9:47 p.m. By 9:53, Omar Exposed was trending #1 worldwide. Outside, former supporters were chanting, "Resign!" Bayer's post-show panel was somber. "In 30 years of journalism, I've never seen anything like that." Within 20 minutes, the squad was in crisis mode. AOC tweeted and deleted 3 times. Leaked texts hit Twitter. "She's radioactive. Distance ASAP." 24 hours later, the media coverage was universal. Even CNN ran, "Mounting questions over Omar's financial dealings." The Washington Post rated most of Trump's claims as true. Nancy Pelosi removed Omar from the Foreign Affairs Committee. Official investigations began. The FBI, the IRS, and the Minnesota Attorney General. 1 week later, her approval rating dropped 23 points. Don Samuels announced his candidacy with a viral ad. "Minneapolis deserves better." Democratic colleagues avoided her in the halls. Somalia's government distanced itself. Several Muslim-majority nations condemned her actions. 2 weeks later, her MSNBC interview was a disaster. She couldn't answer why she wouldn't take the DNA test. Her town hall in Minneapolis was met with protesters outnumbering supporters 3-1. Q1 donations dropped 87%. Tim Mynett's firm lost every client except her campaign. 1 month later, House Ethics announced a formal investigation into immigration fraud and misuse of resources. Pelosi told her privately, "Resign or face expulsion." 6 weeks after the town hall, Ilhan Omar called a press conference. She looked exhausted. "I have decided not to seek re-election in 2024. She didn't take questions. Trump's response was a single tweet. "Good. Now resign completely. America is healing. Within months, Ilhan Omar entered the political lexicon. Minneapolis Somali leaders worked to repair the community's reputation. The refugee who became a congresswoman became a cautionary tale, not about racism, but about how no one is above the law. She'd been given everything and thrown it away for personal enrichment. America had opened its arms, and she'd bitten the hand that fed her. This is what happens when truth is demanded regardless of identity. Ilhan Omar's career ended because Americans finally saw the fraud behind the shield.